Hello, everyone. Welcome to this, the Cult Movie Podcast. Cold Potato, as always, I am Campion, joined by my good buddy Grady. How's it going today, Grady?
I'm going good. Still not 100% not sick, but feeling a lot better than last week's episode.
That's good. You were, I was noticing you were feeling a bit off, but no, that's fine. Okay, so we're just, I'm just gonna forego the intro, just gonna forget about it today, because we've got a lot of ground to cover. Because, Grady, what film are we covering today?
We're covering a film made in 1968 called 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yes. Continuing the trend of Grady not knowing what a cult classic is, it's only one of the most influential and most important movies ever made by one of the most acclaimed directors of all time. Not gonna harp on it too much. I think we've established, the trend for these
Look,
past
next
two
episode's the finale of the season. Okay, hang around to the end of the episode and see, did Grady pick another quote-unquote cult classic?
You've promised me that it is an actual cult classic, so I don't know. We will see. Yes, anyway, 2001: A Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick, with assistance with art from Arthur C. Clarke, both of which are giants in their respective fields. Stanley Kubrick is, of course, a very famous and critically acclaimed film director, and Arthur C. Clarke is considered like one of the greatest science fiction authors of all time. One of the big three, along with Isaac Asimov and Robert Heinlein. For years, I thought 2001 was specifically based off a book Clarke had written, but it turns out this is actually inspired by a short story, and then Clarke developed a book while working on this film with Kubrick, so they were kind of developed simultaneously. So there you go. I honestly wasn't aware of this, and this is okay. I've seen like one other Kubrick movie, and it's a lot to really jump in. Are you familiar with a lot of with his work, Grady?
This is the very first of his films that I have ever seen.
Oh wow! So you jumped right in then.
Yep.
Yeah. The only other movie of his I've ever seen is Doctor Strangelove, which is a comedy movie. Trying to watch a movie. I watched Doctor Strangelove like 50 years after it originally released. Watching a comedy film from years and years ago is difficult. They don't really tend to,
Would you say it's
like
watching Monty Python?
Yeah. I mean, kind of. Except it was nowhere near as cringy. It's still a very interesting film. I just didn't think I found it as funny as they'd intended. But yes, this is actually my second time watching this movie. The first time I ever watched it was back in high school. So this is a long
class?
gap for English class, exactly.
Always for English class.
Yes. Have you seen this movie before? Because I know this is the only Kubrick movie you've seen, but have you seen this specific movie before?
No, I went in completely blind. I knew very little about the concept. Pretty much all that was in the community I referenced earlier, there was black stone monoliths. That's all I had coming into this.
Yeah. I'm surprised because, as I said before, this is one of the most influential movies like ever. So many of these things in this movie have popped up all across pop culture. So, did you have that thing like when you watch a famous movie and you start to just pick up little bits and pieces like, oh, I've seen that before. Oh, I've seen that referenced before.
Yeah, it was pretty. Instead of like, I guess what everybody else had, where they discover them watching forward, like if you're watching Wally after you've seen this, it was much more of a like, oh, that must have inspired that thing.
Yeah. Wally, there's Wally references a lot of things from this movie.
Oh, yes. They're practically the same film.
In fact, that's why I watched this in high school, because we were doing a unit on science fiction, and we watched this paired with Wally, so... Yeah. I had to write
which was better? What did you say was better in English?
I Okay, I'm obviously going to say Wally because I'm a much bigger animation fan, and it's a much more modern film, so it appeals to my more modern
Good
sensibilities. So, I feel that's kind of an unfair comparison, but yeah, I would definitely say Wally.
No, you picked the right answer.
Yeah, I mean, thematically, not so much in Wally. Wally's about a vastly different subject matter, but you know, it pays homage to it in various ways. You know, like Eve is quite obviously designed after the cryogenic hibernation pods that they have. There's the music choices, of course. Because they're pieces of classical music, and I don't know the names to them, but I feel like if I say like the classical music from 2001, your mind's going to jump to one of two pieces. You know, there's the light
fun,
kind of ballet kind of pieces, and then there's the loud, you know, triumphant, bombastic one. You know, one of those two, and I'm pretty sure both of those show up in Wall-E, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't know for sure, but it was definitely a case of like we were watching the film and you'd hear a piece and you'd be like, "Yep, I've heard this. I've heard this." It hit 2001, hit all of the classical music checklist.
Yeah, I feel that just watching The Simpsons alone, I'm pretty sure that's referenced everything famous from this film at some point during its runtime.
Yeah, probably. I think The Simpsons has referenced 99% of things on Earth.
True. It's, you know, it will eventually cover all of the human experience at some point in the future. I think the most famous thing from this movie is easily Hal, like far and away the most iconic character from this movie, who has not really been referenced and homaged in a number of different things, but I feel like that the depiction of the HAL 9000 is the quintessential, you know, rogue AI gone crazy.
Yeah, I think so. And when you were like, "Hey, it's the best character" or whatever, I was going to sit around and go, there were other characters in this film?
Hey, there were the monkeys. The monkeys were pretty great.
Sure. But no, Hal was definitely a highlight from the character standpoint. And I feel like if you were to be watching this for an English class, that was the character that you could definitely dissect a lot around. And, you know, I'm a computer science guy, so the whole AI concept of it and it having to, I guess, come to terms with its own fallacy that it was created for and told to do, and etc., etc. It's a cool piece to explore, and probably the only cool piece to explore from this film.
Okay, well, in terms of character, I think there's a lot of... Really?
Yeah.
Nothing else...
You haven't asked me what I thought of this film yet.
I haven't asked you because I know exactly what you're going to say, Grady. I know how you think. Grady, what did you think of this movie?
What do you think I thought of this movie, Campion?
I thought that you thought it was boring.
I thought that this film was worse than Monty Python.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. This film does... it even kind of tried my patience, if I'm being honest.
Campion, it opened up with 5 minutes of nothing but sound. It was a black screen. I thought my TV had broken.
Yeah. It loves just holding shots and then just kind of letting you just sit and just absorb the atmosphere and really start to appreciate the cinematography is something that I hear a lot, especially since there's a lot of scenes in this movie which is either just like a long drawn out just single shot or just a lot of montages with no dialogue over it and nothing really happening.
This movie is 2.5 hours of my life. Over half of it had no dialogue. 88 minutes of this runtime has no dialogue.
And And it's not that having no dialogue is a problem. Like, I'd like to point out that half of Wally has no dialogue. Okay,
That's
it has
true.
2 words. It has 2 words of dialogue, Wally and Eve, and that's it. And I'm not counting, the audio you hear from that movie. What is it, Hello Dolly? I'm not counting that.
You're aware that there was a captain and a whole, bunch of human characters on the spaceship.
Yeah, but that's in the second half of the movie, Grady.
Oh, okay, sure.
The first half, 2 words of dialogue.
Well, that's fine, because the first 25 minutes of this film, and yes, I do know that time code, because I got up to hit spacebar and pause the film, was no dialogue. We had 5 minutes of black, and we had 20 minutes of Wonka.
Real talk, I think the part with the primitive humans is the best part of the movie. It's my favourite part of the movie.
No.
Like, I know.
Just no. I liked it. I thought it was great for 60s effects. Like the monkey costumes, their acting. I thought everything was cool, but it was arguably a waste of my time.
I think I like it because there's no dialogue and it's able to tell the story and communicate it without it. I really appreciate it when you can have a story be told without any words being said. Visual storytelling is very important, but I see where you're coming from, because unlike other examples I can think of, it's the fact that we hold on certain things for way too long, or that we just go long stretches with just nothing happening. Because most stories that have limited or no dialogue, they try to have a lot happening on screen, or they try to have a lot of action. Like I think Samurai Jack is a very good example of this, because it's a show that has very little dialogue in a lot of places. And even actually, have you seen? Speaking of Samurai Jack, have you seen Gendy Tchaikovsky's new TV show, Primal?
I haven't, no.
The vast majority of it. In fact, I think the entire first season, no dialogue whatsoever. Of course, that's a caveman and a dinosaur prowling around killing stuff. So there's a lot of stuff going on there, But yeah, this is one of those films that, Grady, I'll have to admit, because I also didn't like this film.
Oh, I was shocked. I thought you were going to come in and start defending it.
I should have. Ostensibly, there's a lot of things in this film that I did enjoy, but it's the whole. I don't like the whole, oh man, we have to let the camera run and hold for just way longer than necessary.
This could have been an hour and a half.
It really annoyed me. And I thought that, because I watched it as a teenager and I didn't like it then, and I thought, oh, I'm an adult now, maybe my patience, maybe I'll enjoy it more. I didn't. In fact, that scene at the end, the sequence at the end, which, I'm sure we'll get to, also, that still annoys me. That is so irritating. The interesting part of the ending sequence, like the infamous ending sequence, isn't the last part of it, when we actually get to see Dave wandering around that weird room, and not just weird images, I say weird images, not just weird color filters, just flying past the screen.
Yeah, there's a reason why people sat through 2 hours of horrible film just to get high on mushrooms and watch that scene, and I don't think that scene has any other purpose. I think that scene is there purely for people who took psychedelics.
I would argue that it does. I've read a little bit of what that scene was supposed to be. I
studied it in English class, and the greens represent the...
It's... And because Arthur C. Clarke has written a lot of content about this film, within the novelizations and stuff. And interpretations of what's supposed to... He has provided interpretations of what that ending sequence is supposed to mean. It still annoys me though. It's still it's just a bunch of, it's the weird color filters and stuff. It's the fact that takes up, it's like 15 minutes, Grady.
Oh yeah, there's a half an hour at the end of the film, again, with no dialogue.
Yeah. And, like, don't get me wrong, the part where we actually see Dave in that weird room, I like that part. That part is genuinely fascinating to me, you know? Admittedly, as a teenager, when I first saw it, I thought it was hilarious because, you know, we just sat through, like, 10 minutes of just stuff, and then it's just like, hey, he's an old man now. I did, and now, hey, look, Space Baby! The Star Child's still funny to me. That I don't know why the Star Child just showing up is still really funny.
I feel like there was a quote, and I'm not going to butcher the quote because I don't remember it exactly, but it was something like, if you understood all of 2001, we made it wrong.
Yeah.
And, like, it's not my favorite way to walk out of a cinema, or in this case, you know, out of my lounge. And sometimes I walk out and I'm like, okay, I didn't understand A, B, and C, but I understood the rest. I'll watch some YouTube videos and figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't think I understood a single thing that happened.
Yeah, like, I like it when a movie makes me think. I like not being given all the answers. But
like Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction, exactly, you know. It makes you think. I love things being open to interpretation and being able to think through things. But in this case, it genuinely felt like it was just kind of throwing stuff at the end. Like, because there's some genuinely really good stuff in this movie. The effects work in this is fantastic, you know. I'm a huge fan of using models over CGI. This is something that that Star Trek, you know, that old school Star Trek did. Okay, less the stuff from the 60s, more 80s, 90s is when it tended to look a lot better. And, you know, the models they use in this movie are amazing, you know, like the space station and Discovery 1 look fantastic. I think Alien also did that really well. And I really love the part where Dave is, you know, running through the space station and he's running, you know, around it. And I looked it up because I figured I kind of figured how they would have done that effect, but they just built a giant, massive rotating set that would rotate as the actor ran around it. So, you know, it would look as if he was just, you know, he was actually in like a space station that was spinning.
Yeah. I can agree with you on those. That's probably, you know, if I'm trying to pick out or cherry pick the things that I did like, you know, it's Hal's character, it's a few sequences here and there. As you say, those effects were quite cool. And normally, again, I could be able to sit here and be like, okay, but if we remove out 1, 2, and 3, I could still see a nice tight film here. I just don't think that those effects and, you know, the bits and pieces that we have throughout the film is enough to carry it. And seeing, I guess, how highly regarded the film is, I was maybe, you know, coming in with higher expectations, but I didn't know anything about the film, so it was pretty blank slate. But coming out of it, my number one question is like, how? How is, like, that the film that everyone points to and is like, that's the best film ever, it's winning awards, it's doing this, it's doing that?
I'd have to say a lot of it does have to do with context, because you have to remember when this came out in 1968, like, I can imagine this film blowing a lot of people's minds at the time. Because you have to remember, a lot of science fiction at the time was stuff like, well, you consider all the stuff from the 50s, you know, people in goofy rubber suits. Early Star Trek had been on the air for a few years. Whereas, like, actual, like, this one is, like, actual proper, like, hard SF. And that's something that the public really hadn't been exposed to before. I mean, I think there are probably bits and pieces, there are probably some lesser known works, but I think this is, like, you know, definitely a big thing. And especially since, you know, it was trying to do something really high concept. And, you know, Kubrick is a fairly art house-ish kind of director. I think that a lot of films like do need to be viewed in the context that they kind of came out in.
You know what came out the exact same year?
What, Grady?
Planet of the Apes.
Yeah. You know, the original Planet of the Apes is actually still a really good movie. I don't know if you've actually seen it, but it's actually a really good movie.
I've seen bits and pieces from it, and the bits and pieces I've seen from it I would already rank above 2001.
it had better ape makeup for starters, but yeah, it's. I think that this movie just. Okay, it's something that a lot of artsy-fartsy people tend to say, Grady, but I just don't think we get it, Grady. It's just not for us. We just don't get it. Which is odd, because usually the artsy-fartsy kind of garbage is usually the stuff I go for. And here I'm just like, I don't really think this is doing it for me.
That's the thing, right? Like, I can sit here and be like, okay, it's artsy, it's not for me. But from looking at the reception it got, at the time, with the awards and nominations, and even people in the 2000s saying it's so great, I just don't understand how it's for them either. Like, I don't know. I feel like half the people who are promoting this film as great haven't seen this film.
I mean, like how most people who say 1984 is a fantastic book have never read the book.
Yeah, there's a few things like that. Like, I'm not going to say, you're bad if you like this film. I would genuinely like to sit down with someone who thinks this is the greatest film, like, ever, or the greatest sci-fi film ever, and just have them explain to me why it's such a good film. And I was kind of hoping you'd have a few points here, but...
I mean, again, you mentioned Planet of the Apes, which, if I'm being blunt, is a significantly better movie. It's just... And... Yeah, it's weird, because there are definitely scenes in here that are fantastic, like the scene with Hal going offline. That's a really, really good scene. For me, one shot really stands out. It's the scene where it's like the first introduction to the monolith, where we first see it, and it's just a long shot of these apes just going absolutely nuts, and then they slowly, get quieter and quieter, and they all draw towards the monolith, and they all start touching and putting their hands on it. For me, that's also a really good scene.
Yeah, I feel like those monkey scenes, as much as you love them, I think they were well done. Too long, but well done. I'm not going to say anything is too long.
You could say that, Grady. That's the tagline for the film. Well done. Too long.
Yeah, I'm going to remove too long. Just assume any praise I give a shot in this film, too long is attached to it, but I'm just not going to say it. Yeah, the monkey scene's there. I think a lot of the stuff when we're out in space as well just looks really cool. And it's just such a bits and pieces, though. It's like maybe 4% of the film was good like that. And even the stuff in the space shuttles... like the first time when he had like the flight attendants and stuff like that with him, there was some cool stuff there, Velcro shoes walking up the wall and stuff. Very obviously how it was done, but it was still a cool shot.
Yeah, it still looks impressive, and I think you and I are kind of spoiled because with the modern internet, we frequently get glimpses into how movies and stuff are made, and I feel that back then people wouldn't know the stuff, so it would have really blown their mind to see someone just kind of walk up a wall and walk upside down.
Yeah, you do have to think, I guess, what the world looked like in 68. And yeah, a lot of the stuff that, there's some stuff they nailed, and I'm gonna give them full credit for their research on that. Like, I heard the amount of effort they went into researching space travel and the technology surrounding that, and what was front of the curve stuff, and then they adapt it, and then it's just everyday household stuff now. And
because they got actual consultants from like IBM and NASA to help them out on this film. Like, there's just a staggering attention to detail here. Also, something I never noticed, Hal, you take the letters of Hal, you move them back one place in the alphabet, and it's IBM. I didn't know that.
Well, yeah. Or forward one, but yeah.
Forward one, yeah, sorry.
It's a Caesar shift one.
And apparently, according to Arthur C. Clarke, that was a complete coincidence. He did not intend that whatsoever, but he'll roll with it. He's like, why not?
Yeah. It's, yeah. I think the amount of effort that went into it, the amount of ways that they shot things, and a lot of what they did would have been revolutionary for the 60s. I wasn't alive, obviously. I'm not going to be able to pick and look around in that headspace, but for today's audience, I just feel like this movie does not stack up, I guess, to anything that we've got. Like, I would not go out of my way to watch this film ever again.
You and me both. I'm glad that I did watch it, but it's more just to fully appreciate, like, its cultural significance more than as, like, an actual film. Which makes me feel kind of bad, but there's always going to be, like, really, critically acclaimed and famous films that that's never going to click with you, especially if they're old. Like, the further time goes on, like, the more modern sensibilities kind of clash with it.
And if you think about...
I would watch it again on either fast forward or edited down heavily.
Is there an edited 30-minute version?
Someone's bound to have made one. I mean, someone edited down, like, all of One Piece, so I would not be surprised if someone edited down this movie.
Yeah. If you're thinking about, like, the world of sci-fi and stuff like that, like, Campion, what came out 9 years later?
Alien?
Another great cult classic called Star Wars.
Oh, that's right, yeah. And then Alien a couple of years after that. So, two of the greatest science fiction films ever made.
Like, I know technology makes leaps and bounds in 10 years, but,
yeah,
in
terms of, like, presentation and just, like, pacing, I think that those are just appeal a lot more.
Yeah, it is, 60s versus 70s, but 9 years isn't a huge amount of time. If I think to films that we had 9 years ago in 2013, it's not that crazy different to the films we had now. Maybe cinema is stalling.
Around 9 years ago, wasn't it?
Sorry?
Wasn't Hot Fuzz around 9-ish years ago?
2003? I think it would be even further. I'm getting on the Google train. Hot Fuzz, 2007. Exact.
Okay.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, I can't math. 15 years ago.
Yeah. I did. There are because because I'm just looking at stuff, right? 60% of this film's budget went to the effects, which again doesn't surprise me, especially with how big budget science fiction films work now.
Yeah, honestly, I think that was probably, as we've both said, like, the biggest parts of it that were good. So, I guess budget well spent?
Yeah, and because there's a lot of, background and behind-the-scenes information for this movie, unsurprisingly. A couple of them is that apparently Pink Floyd were approached to do the music, but... they declined. Another one is apparently, do you know who Osamu Tezuka is?
I do not.
He is he's considered like the grandfather of Japanese manga. Like the guy who really got that all started. He's the creator of Astro Boy, in fact.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, he's like one of the old school, like a Jack Kirby of Japanese manga kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was approached to do like some design work on this, but he didn't have any time. And I would love to live in a universe where Pink Floyd and Osamu Tezuka worked on this film. I just think that would be just absolutely nuts.
Yeah, I think, I don't know how, like, my perception would have changed. Like, if Pink Floyd were on this film, I don't think I would have changed my opinion. I'd probably say that scene with the Pink Floyd song in it's really cool. But in terms of a whole direction change, then yeah, I could probably see that potentially picking it up. But
yeah,
if it's a Kubrick film, he wanted to shoot it like this, and this is how he chose to shoot it.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't really think, because for me the score is also one of the strongest parts of the movie. I don't think changing it would really work. Although apparently they were also approached to do A Clockwork Orange, and I could see them fitting that film like a lot better.
Yeah, I don't know. Pink Floyd's Pink Floyd, man. I love it, but it is its own sort of thing. It does only suit specific stuff. You're not going to be shotting it in everywhere. Yeah,
I'm just saying that because it's just, if you're going to do a sci-fi dystopia, Pink Floyd, they did The Wall, didn't they?
Yeah.
So that's, it fits fairly well is what I'm trying to get at.
That requires me to have any sort of knowledge of Clockwork Orange. I'll just nod along, pretend I agree.
That's also a sci-fi sci-fi dystopia-ish kind of thing. So
Okay.
Although vastly different from The Wall. The Wall is more authoritarian, whereas actually no, Clockwork Orange is also authoritarian, but also anarchic, I suppose.
Yeah, I was just looking at all the films we'd done so far, because this one came out obviously 1968, and I was like, did we do any films around that time? And this is now the oldest film that we had on the podcast, and I'll tell you now, it's going to hold that all the way until the end of the series. But the movie that it took that record off of was Puff and Stuff from 1970.
What esteemed company to hold for 2001.
But to be fair, immediately after that one is 1971's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, so cinema truly did pick up in the space between 1970 and 1971.
Yeah.
Then it immediately dipped again, though, because Monty Python was 1975.
I'm really glad we enjoyed Pulp Fiction last time, because I do feel that we have a tendency to shit on popular and famous movies a lot. See, we're not total contrarians. We do like some of them.
Yeah, it would be interesting to look back through them and just see, I guess, where we put them. Obviously, Monty Python was our worst film that we ever did piece, and personally, I'm putting 2001 before that. It doesn't sound like you are, but for me, it's at least in that basket down there.
Yeah. For me, I think visually, this film does really well. That, and I also because it does a lot of things that I like. It just doesn't do it in a way that I like.
It does it really slowly in slow motion.
Yeah, and because enough. Okay, just so that we're not crapping all over it, I just want to talk about something else that I really like.
That's fun. Go nuts.
I really like the way the aliens are presented in this movie. I like the fact that they're never shown. It's like an invisible hand kind of in the background, just sort of guiding humanity, through the evolutionary process. And I do like, even though the bit at the end does really annoy me because it goes on forever and it's just, pretty colors moving past the camera, the scene where we actually get Dave in that weird, creepy room, I also really like, because you can actually, pull stuff out of it. It's like, it seems something like the aliens have kind of tried to pull him into their world, but they just don't really seem to understand how humans kind of live. Like, the room ostensibly looks okay, but there are a few things that are just kind of off, like how the lights are on the floor, or how the decor doesn't really match up with itself, and even, the physics there, like how Dave is rapidly aging as he's living in there, and then he just kind of ascends at the end and becomes, the Star Child. I like that kind of stuff, it gives me like a vague kind of cosmic horror-y sort of vibe, or at least, kind of like the whole Eldritch, like, these aliens are beyond our comprehension kind of shtick. I like that. I love that kind of stuff, I just don't like the way that story was told to me.
Yeah, I guess there is some elements around there, that could take it one of two ways, and I think that's always the case with this. You flip a coin. It could either turn it into a great way to tell the story, and be a perfect way to advance it that way, or it could be something that people get absolutely confused about, makes no sense, and people don't like. And I feel like this movie flipped a coin 20 times, and unfortunately it got 19 heads.
Yeah. And it's... Yeah. I just don't know how to feel, because I feel very confused at the end of this, which is maybe what they wanted,
I don't want to leave a movie that confused. A little confused is okay.
Yeah.
Like, if you asked me to... I was really glad you didn't. If you asked me what the plot of this film was, there's aliens, there's some monoliths, the one on Earth just sort of yeeted itself out of existence, there was a second one, a third one at the end of the film made an old man turn to a baby, and they ejected Yellow because Yellow was sus.
Thank you for bringing it back to Among Us, Grady. I thought Among Us was just supposed to be like Alien or The Thing, but no, you brought it back to this. Thank you.
Look, I don't know why Dave-O decided he didn't need Yellow Spaceman and decided to just yeet Yellow Spaceman out into the abyss. Look, he just made that decision for himself. Maybe he was sus, maybe he was not. It was Hell that was truly sus. I'll be honest, that Hell is sus was yelled out multiple times during the film.
God damn it, of course he was. I haven't even played that game, if I'm being blunt.
You should. At least you get the references.
I do, because they're literally... like the references that 2001 A Space Odyssey has gifted our culture, the references from Among Us are literally everywhere. I cannot avoid it, even though I've tried.
Campion is sus.
Okay, well, I think that we've just about wrapped up.
This might be the shortest episode of the podcast, because we don't want to just sit here for an hour pooping on this movie.
No, I feel kind of bad, and especially since it makes me... I realize we're lowbrow people, aren't we, Grady? We like stuff to move fast, we like explosions, we like stuff to happen. This highbrow, high-minded stuff just doesn't suit us.
We're not smart enough for this film.
We're not smart enough for this movie. I don't know, maybe I could sit down with a film student and they could explain this to me in between their shifts at McDonald's or something. I don't know. Anyway, Grady, any final thoughts on this movie before we move on?
Hold on. I'm trying to... Vamp for me, vamp. And I got it, here we go. To be fair, Campion, you have to have a very high IQ to understand 2001 A Space Odyssey. The sci-fi is extremely subtle and without a solid grasp of theoretical physics. Most of the shots will go over a typical viewer's head, and I can't be bothered redoing the rest of the copy pasta. It's the Rick and Morty copy
because
pasta.
I'm worried that the next thing you're going to say is that the next thing we're covering is Rick and Morty.
No, my final thoughts on this film is just that everything was too long. Yes. Chop it all in half, speed it up, figure something out, and maybe this could have been something good, or something that I would have enjoyed. I don't like saying a movie is bad. Something that I could have enjoyed.
Like we are not the you know, the be all end all of.
We're not the Academy
movie, but I think the two of us, we personally do not like this film. I'm glad that I've seen it, and that once that I've seen it is enough for me. Like, I'd be keen to sit down and rewatch Pulp Fiction. I am not keen to sit down and rewatch 2001.
That is entirely fair.
Yes. So anyway, this film, of course, was very successful. On a budget of $10.5 million, it made $146 million at the box office. Keep in mind, this was in 1968 money. I can't be bothered to, adjust for inflation on that, but I'm sure that translates to like a crap load.
Yeah, I think it was quite a bit, for sure.
Yeah.
60s to now is a lot of inflation.
Dude, now to a couple of years ago was a lot of inflation.
That's true.
Yeah. Yes, of course, this is one of the most famous films ever made. This has been referenced in a lot of different things. Wally being an obvious example. Gladys from the Portal games being another very big example. And in fact, the Gladys and Hal met, I think they actually ended up meeting in Lego Dimensions, of all places. I don't know why, but yeah, the two of them just ended up interacting. But yeah, HAL 9000 has served as like the template for AI gone rogue in science fiction everywhere. The red, the piercing red light, as if it's like an unblinking red eye, is a very iconic image from this film that's been reused in a lot of different places. Even like something that really jumps to my mind just out of nowhere is, I remember they referenced this in like Do you remember the old show Recess
I do, yeah.
from Disney? Yeah, I think it was the Sal 9000 in that movie, but it also had the same thing. It's been referenced in a lot of different places, is what we're trying to say. Of course, the whole spacewalk thing with that light little piece of ballet orchestral has been referenced in a lot of different places. I think there was like a famous scene from The Simpsons, specifically like the episode where Homer becomes an astronaut. Is something that I remember. I tried looking up the different cast members, and I do not recognize any of them.
It's not the most famous cast in the world.
Nope.
Half of them, their IMDb pictures are from this movie.
Yep. I know Stanley Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke. That's it. That's all that I know from this movie.
That's fair.
Yeah. And of course, Hal himself, I believe the part where he starts singing Bicycle Built for Two, I think they did that because wasn't there something, I vaguely remember something about like the first computer to sing, like that was the song they had them sing, or something like that.
Computer science major, I don't know everything about computers.
I specifically remember that from the brief time I took a computer science course. That's the reason I know that bit of trivia.
Or maybe I should have paid more attention in university. C's to get degrees.
If these had gotten degrees, I would have gone into programming, Grady. Before we move on though, have you heard the singing computer? Have you heard that?
I haven't, no.
Absolutely terrifying. I can see why they thought having Hal sing it would be great, because it is genuinely terrifying.
Fair enough. I don't want the nightmare fuel, so I'm not gonna watch that anytime soon.
Yes. Okay, Grady. That's it. We've finished 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's done and dusted. What is the final film in this, what you have called the community season, but I've called the not a cult film season?
Yep, you're right. There's been 3 films so far in the community season: Breakfast Club, Pulp Fiction, and 2001: A Space Odyssey. It is called the community season because these are all referenced in one of our favorite television shows of all time, Community. And Campion, we're going to stay in the sci-fi realm, because that's...
I swear if it's Star Wars. I swear.
It's a thing that is still quite prominent in the 2000s, 2020s, 2010s. It does feature outer space. It does feature traveling aboard ships, and it features great battles between people with powers. And that next film we're going to be watching is the Doctor Who movie from 1996.
Oh, god damn it! Okay. Oh, it's not... Okay, this is different from the usual goddammits, because unlike the other ones, this one actually does veer into cult classic territory.
I told you. I said this one you can't deny.
But I'm not looking forward to it because I've never seen it. I have not heard good things about this movie.
I have seen it. I do not recall a single second of this film.
Well, it looks like we're back to this is familiar territory. We're back to our roots, Grady.
Look, I had to pull us back in at the end, okay? Inspector Spacetime was one of the best parts of Community. I'm sure this Doctor Who movie is going to be one of the best parts of this season of Cold Potato.
I genuinely thought you were going to say Cougar Town. We're going to be doing Cougar Town.
No, there was a few to pick from, but I did want to make sure I had at least one proper 100% by your definition cult classic.
Yeah, fair enough. You could have done RoboCop. They referenced RoboCop.
Nah, Doctor Who the movie.
With Kick Puncher. Oh, wait, it was Kick Puncher more Terminator.
I kind of expected us to like the first 3 movies, and then this was going to be...
We liked one of them.
Yeah, this was going to be like the funny dud at the end of the season.
That we both end up loving.
Yeah, it's gotten rough, okay? So, I don't know how we're going to end here. But we're going to, hopefully, Doctor Who, not as bad as you've been told.
To be fair, you picked 3 of the most critically acclaimed films of all time. You know, you figured we would have been hitting 3 for 3 on all of them.
Look, 1 for 3 ain't bad odds.
Oh, but with that, thank you so much, Grady. That is going to be the end of today's episode. Thank you for joining us as we talked about 2001: A Space Odyssey. Or, as always, it's been a great time. Feel free to join us next time when we talk about the Doctor Who 1980 movie.
1996. It came out really late.
1996, starring Paul McGann, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Thank you for so much. As always, this has been Cult Potato, the Cult Movie Podcast, and I'm just getting mixed up.
You're looking so forward to Doctor Who.
Movie.
You're looking forward to it so much you can't even get your words out.
No, I can't. This has been the Lexicon of Lore, and we hope to see you all next time.